In today's brief video, I want to talk to everyone about the power of sobriety and why regularly practicing sobriety is actually a really cool thing that I believe anyone can get excited about. When it comes to the world of addiction recovery, we often think of sobriety as simply abstaining from substances, whether that be nicotine, weed, alcohol, adult media content. But being sober and practicing sobriety has a significantly deeper meaning than simply abstaining from substances, a meaning that I think you could truly get excited about. Now, if you wind up enjoying the content in today's video, be sure to check out the pinned comment or the video description to learn more about the Addiction Mindset Recovery Coaching paid and free program resources. I want to start with a definition of sobriety, okay? And then we're going to take a moment and break down what this definition actually means. Sobriety is the habitual inner self-government. So self-government is talking about discipline. The habitual inner self-government with its constant reign on all passions and desires, which hinders temptations from arising. So we're talking about the power of self-control, self-government, and discipline reigning over all temptations and desires that don't serve us in a good way, in such strength as would overbear the checks and barriers which are opposed to it. So we're talking about an ultimate form of self-control, self-mastery that is so powerful that any temptations, any barriers, anything like peer pressure would crumble at its feet. Okay? That's the level of self-discipline and self-control that we're talking about when it comes to sobriety, okay? Now, in simpler terms, what we're saying is the ultimate control of one's faculties. People think of quitting drugs being directly correlated to getting sober. But sober is about controlling our faculties. Now, the question becomes, what are each of those faculties? And I broke them down into 5 different categories. Category 1 is our physical. Category 2 is our psychological. Category 3, if it pertains to you, is spiritual. Category 4 is emotional, which also applies to our relationships. And then category number 5 is our financial faculties. And I'm going to spend some time talking about each of these things and how they correlate to sobriety and addiction. Faculty number 1, so having the ultimate control over our physical health. Of course, there's things in life that might arise that we can't control when it comes to our physical health, but largely a lot of the decisions that we make day to day are going to impact how we feel physically. The foods we eat, whether or not we exercise, whether or not we get outside and get sunlight each day, get fresh air, right? All these things are going to impact how we feel physically. Addiction, particularly in my case to THC, was a loss of control of my physical faculties, right? I had the physical cravings, the physical urges, right? Which would result in headaches and sweating and all of that stuff. I eventually developed Cannabinoid Hyperemesis Syndrome, where I lost control of my digestive system. I lost control of appetite regulation. I lost control of my circadian rhythm, my ability to sleep. Things that we often see people fall apart in when it comes to addiction. Sobriety is reclaiming control of your physical faculties. This has to do with exercise. This has to do with getting outside. This has to do with eating healthy. And I'm emphasizing this because a lot of times people will quit smoking weed to get sober and they'll start eating like crap, or they won't work out at all, or they won't take care of themselves, but they'll be like, "Hey, I'm not doing drugs at least." What's the point in just quitting a substance if the only goal is to quit? The goal should be to better yourself in one way, shape, or form, right? Because that's something that you can get excited about. That's something you can get passionate about. Aspect number 2, or faculty number 2, is psychological. When it came to THC addiction, I had suffered from manic behavior and an acute state of psychosis. I quite literally lost control of my psychological faculties. I lost control. I literally lost my mind for a brief period of time. And this is probably my biggest motivation to never touch substances again. I never want to be in a situation where something is altering my influence to make reasonable and rational decisions. I never want to be in that situation again because I want to be the influencer. I want to be the person who influences, not the person who's a consumer and the person who's being influenced. Reclaiming control of our psychological faculties, okay, might involve some therapy. It might involve meditation. It might involve breath work. It might involve taking on challenging tasks simply for the sake of seeing those tasks through and how far you can push yourself. And getting sober might be that task. Reclaiming control spiritually. For a lot of people, this is going to be relevant. In my channel, I don't go into in depth on this, nor am I going to at this moment, but maybe in the future. Faculty number 4, emotional control, right? We often hear people, at least today, there's a big trend when it comes to stoicism and being able to regulate our emotions. I'm sure if you're on the motivational YouTube side of things or anything like that, you've seen conversations about this. But I actually think the practice of sobriety is far more powerful than the practice of stoicism, because we're not only talking about control of our emotions, and I'll remind everyone, a lot of the world's most famous Stoics had some pretty serious substance use disorders, I believe including Marcus Aurelius himself. Sorry to burst the bubble if that's the case. Just Google it to verify that for me, though. Make sure. When I was under the influence of THC addiction, I did not have my emotional faculties well regulated. Emotionally, I would fly off the handle in a celebratory sense or in a depressive sense. I had extreme highs and extreme lows. And the goal is to be somewhere in between the two. I want to celebrate the highs. I want to experience the lows, but I always want to come back to that point of balance. And this is a lot of what sobriety has to do with. So it's beyond just that of substances. If I'm in an argument with someone, practicing sobriety is practicing my emotional response to the things that they're saying to me. This could also apply to my emotional response to peer pressure or my emotional responses to the relationships that I have in my life with my family, my significant other, my coworkers, or my peers. This is emotional regulation, and practicing sobriety should emphasize this. Lastly, number 5 is our financial faculties. Of course, addiction damages a person financially. No matter how rich you are, if you're addicted to a substance and that substance is not serving you well, there is a lack of financial control. You've lost power of that faculty. And sobriety is reclaiming that faculty. Now, that goes further, though, than just not spending money on the drug. We want to take that money and maybe invest that money into something that's going to give us a positive return. Maybe this is index funds for future retirement. Maybe this is taking that money and reinvesting it into your health or reinvesting it into your business. It's not wasting the money frivolously. Okay, that would not be, in my opinion, what practicing sobriety is all about, because sobriety is the ultimate control of one's faculties, the financial faculty being a portion of that. When we look at this on a bigger picture scale, I think we could assess each of these 5 categories and determine that sobriety has a lot more to do than just quitting a substance. Because if we quit a substance and we let ourselves go physically, if we quit a substance and we let ourselves go spiritually, right? If we don't have some moral compass, if we let ourselves go psychologically into a state of deep depression or anxiety, and if we fly off the handles emotionally, is that really is that really why you quit the substance? Is that really worth it? In my opinion, the answer would be no. The purpose of quitting a substance is to better oneself in each of these categories. It's to demonstrate an ultimate form of control over one's faculties. It's the habitual inner self-government, something that becomes a habit, something that you have practiced so much day in and day out that you don't even have to think twice about it when you're faced with a barrier or a challenging situation or a level of peer pressure. This is what, my opinion, the practice of sobriety is all about. And I actually think it's one of the most badass things out there, especially in today's world where we talk about motivation and discipline and stoicism. I think the practice of sobriety is one of the most powerful practices that can really be life-changing for an individual. Now, if you found this conversation eye-opening or it gave you a different mindset when it comes to quitting weed or alcohol or nicotine or whatever it may be sure to check out that pinned comment to learn more about our one-on-one coaching program. Our flagship program, which we're launching in August, it's sobriety focused on helping business owners quit THC products. And then we have other coaching packages, community support groups, one-on-one video responses, and a ton of free PDF documents for you guys on this stuff. So be sure to check out all those resources. And if you don't want to do that, follow me right into the video description where you can pick up a copy of the High Performance Planner. It's a journal that's going to help you detail out a lot of the things that I just talked about when it comes to your physical, psychological, spiritual, emotional, and financial well-being. I'll see you guys in one of those spots.